You are one of the riders that went from a Sherco when it seemed like the world was ending for that Texas-based distributor, but you're on a Fantic now, and I would say that even though things seem to end weird with Sherco for a lot of different people, you have found a pretty good footing on the Fantic team.
Yeah, I am super lucky. Sherco ended at the beginning of August, and Fantic was right there to pick me up. We jumped on that as soon as we can. Obviously, TKO was at the end of August, and so I had to do everything that we could to the bikes before then. We did a lot of surfing through Cody Webb's videos with what he did to his YZ250. That for sure helped with us because it's a YZ based platform. He made a lot of those decisions pretty easy, but yeah, we didn't have much time.
It's so interesting to come off of a Sherco. Okay, immediate reaction, because there have been a lot of Shercos out there. I've ridden Shercos. I have loved riding my Sherco. You were racing them professionally, and what happened sucks. So different, though sometimes people try to make it the same. I don't think it's the same, right? What was that transition like coming to the Fantic? Again, like you said, it is a YZ platform. Cody Webb was doing all this stuff.
Yeah, so it's a big difference. The Shercos have always been carbs, and the feeling of a carb compared to a fuel injection is a very, very big difference. A lot bigger actually than I remember, because I was on a gas a few years back, and that was obviously fuel injected. Just the feeling of the carb compared to the fuel injection bike was probably the biggest thing. And then you obviously got the aluminum frame compared to steel frame. Like, it's just, the bike is just kind of completely different in every way. The Sherco had like amazing bottom end, and it kind of didn't have the greatest top end, and the Fantic has a good bottom end, but the top end just screams. Like, that is a hill climb bike, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Tell me what you mean about that. You said the top end screams and that makes it a hill climbing bike. Like, how is it that for you that's a hill climbing thing? I'm just trying to wrap my head around what you professional racers do that I don't, obviously.
Yeah, so I found out this year that, or I thought this year, I was like, man, I really can't do these hill climbs, and I was trying to figure it out. I was practicing everything. Like, I just can't climb quite as good as the rest of the guys. Like, I mean, I ride with Tristan and Ryder and Cody, all these guys all the time, and on that Sherco, I mean, I'm a bigger rider too. I'm like 190. I'm 6'2", so I'm not a small guy. So
Right.
the lack of top end plus my weight, it was for sure a hinder compared to a few other guys. But yeah, I couldn't get that bike up some of the hills that those guys were. And so when I switched this Fantic that had amazing top end power and high revs, so I was able to do great. I mean, we went to Outliers. That was my second race on the bike, and I ended up getting a podium, and that race was purely hills.
Interesting. I can see how that would make sense. And at the same time, too, like on the Sherco, I remember that bottom end. Like that bottom end was beautiful. One
Yeah.
of the other things I loved about that bike, I couldn't stall it. That was
Yeah.
just like so amazing. And it's interesting when you say that, because I remember we'll get more, which is quickly on Cody Webb. I remember him talking about in his transition video about how he created a trials bike out of that YZ, but then it had no top end. And that's so
Yeah.
interesting, right? He kind of completely removed all the things you're saying now that you're enjoying about the Fantic.
Yeah.
When you were, so how you did it Outliers to then going into Endurocross, what did you try to change anything, or were you really kind of still getting used to the bike?
It wasn't too much. I was pretty used to bike Outliers. There was only like one or two things that we changed going into Endurocross. One thing being the steering head angle, or not actually on the frame, but the triple clamp angle. So the
Okay.
stock bike comes at a 24-degree offset, which I don't know if you know much about angles and that, but it's really raked out. So the bike goes straight, really good, and very stable. But that makes turning and tight technical areas a lot more difficult. And obviously, Endurocross is just tight turns and jumps. So we tucked the front end under. So we went to a 22 millimeter offset that
That's a
makes
big
it
difference.
so, yeah, it's actually really big. So brought the front end under, and it made it so much better. Obviously, it's not quite as good going straight, but you don't really go perfectly straight all the time. So
Right.
yeah, that was a big thing. And then we put a high compression head and took the weighted flywheel off, and that's all really you do. It's not that much.
So you took the weighted flywheel off, and just again, kind of like trying to think about it as a YZ, but then the Fantic in and of itself, that weighted flywheel is actually something they put on to try to tame it down in that regard.
Yeah, well, we put it on for hard enduro just to help a little bit with
Got
that
it. Got it.
stalling. But endurocross, you're coming out of corners and hitting 10-foot doubles, and so you want it to rev up as quickly as possible. So no delay, and it's not that the weighted flywheel has that much delay, but I mean every little thing matters.
How are you so energetic? Well, before I start these interviews, I make sure instead of just having an Americano, I make myself a shot of espresso in my nice motorcycles and coffee shot glass. And of course, if you want to make sure that you have a tumbler as well, you could get a motorcycle and coffee tumbler. What's neat is it's got this little button, and now I can drink out of it. Push it again. Okay, I had to really test it. Nothing comes out. Whoa, guys, these things are awesome. Thank you very much for your support at Motorcycles and Coffee. We really appreciate it. Please support those that are supporting this sport by going to motorcyclesandcoffee.com. See you guys in Johnson Valley. So when the Fantic came stock, you put that weighted flywheel on for hard enduro, removed it over endurocross. Is that kind of correct?
Yep. Yep.
I'm very interested in the steering. So there is a slight chance that I may actually have a Fantic in the seed by the beginning of next year, and to do some content creation on it, a ride and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As a single track rider, right? Not really focusing on anything except maybe play riding and trying to go fast to the single track every now and again. How did you feel that steering was? Like, would those typical 0.5 millimeter changes, like maybe going to a 23.5, be something that you think you'd recommend? Or for that 24, it's like, it's actually okay?
It's definitely okay. And I mean, I think most people wouldn't really be able to feel the difference. You know, I mean, it's only a few millimeters, which, it's pretty huge. But I think if you're going to do just single track and more of like the open riding, I think it would be totally fine. But if you are going to do it, I think a 23 or even a 22 would be amazing as well. Because the more you tuck it under, the tighter steering you'll have. But I haven't really found any downsides to it. You know, Cody did the same thing. He runs the 23 offset. I just found that I like the 22 a little more, but yeah, it's a little both. You know, you could run it one way or the other, and I think you'll like both of them.
That's interesting. That's great information. And I think that as Fantics come out more, as we see the Riahoos come out more. I'm trying to say it correctly and fast, and it is not happening. There's just, we're gonna need more information out there. So I think it's super helpful for people that are kind of like, it's like piquing their interest just a little bit, which is probably why one might wind up in my garage to continue to play and learn and things of that nature. But Braxton, who are you? Where are you from? How did you grow up doing all of this? And like, you know, how did you get to King of the Motos to where we're going to be for 2026?
So in 2022, we have this local endurocross race that some of the big riders will do. I mean, it's a money event, you know, a local fairground race. And it's an endurocross race. And I did that a little bit growing up. And then, so I'm from Nephi, Utah. So that's like smack dab in the middle of Utah. And as you know, Rich Larson is also here in Utah. And so, I was like, oh, okay, we got this endurocross race. I'm finally on a big bike, you know, let's do a lesson with Rich just before and see what happens, you know, let's give myself the best chance at this race. And so, I do the lesson, and then he's like, how long have you been riding enduro? And I'm like, I've never ridden enduro in my life. I just kind of, I know how to double blip. And so, did the race. I did pretty good. And so a few weeks after he offered, he said, hey, let's do endurocross this year. So that was in like June. So we had June to October to train. So 2022, I do all of endurocross. I think I got second in the junior and second in intermediate. You know, it started, I think like the first round, I got like 10th place in both classes, but by the end I was actually winning, you know, kind of just learning how to do it. Cause it's a fairly different thing that what I was used to. So, right after the last round, you know, Sean Whitcomb, the owner of High Tech Motorsports, reached out and said, hey, Gas said they want to make a team with Kale. Do you want to join? And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. And so I had basically the end of November to January to learn how to do hard enduro. You know, I've never done hard enduro at this point, like completely alien to me. I had no clue what I was doing. And, you know, come off endurocross, I was like, okay, I got second in both these championships. My first try, you know, I'll be able to get this down. And so I do my first hard enduro clinic with Rich and got humbled real quick. You know, hard enduro is not endurocross. So yeah, just did what I could, and I raced a B class in 2023, and I ended up winning that championship mainly because I went to every round. But
hey, sometimes that's
that.
what it takes. That's okay. Like,
Oh
you
yeah,
did it.
Yeah. And then finally after Endurocross Hard Enduro in 2023, I'd kind of got my head wrapped around everything. And that's when I made the jump to go to the expert class for Endurocross in 2023. And I ended up making a pro main at 15. So technically I wasn't even allowed to race it because it's a AMA pro event and you
Oh,
have to be
16, yeah.
16 to do that. And so yeah, I technically, I mean, I wasn't on the scoreboard. There was 15 riders and I was number 16 and I wasn't even on the scoring list. So yeah, did that. And then 2024 raced A class, battled with Riley Bender, and I ended up winning because he hurt himself. So yeah, 2024 Endurocross went well, and then yeah, 2025 is when Sherco ended up picking me up, and we did all of Hard Enduro together, and the bike was great, awesome. And then yeah, right at the midpoint of the year in 2025 is when the distributor lost the connection with Sherco, and that's when it all went under. So yeah. So yeah, I think this will be my 4th year of Hard Enduro. So yeah, I'm still pretty new to the game, but ended up ninth in the points in Hard Enduro 2025 and ninth in the points in Endurocross.
Have you competed at King of the Motos before? How have you done there? And how do you kind of like plan on going in this year? Especially anything different, I think, the way you're thinking about the Fantic and going in on that bike.
Yeah, so in 2023 was my first year. I won the B class, and then 24 I won the A class, and then this year in 2025 I actually had a bike failure. I mean, it's a Sherco, so the clutch failed, sadly. So yeah, that was a yeah, that wasn't a great way to start the year. I was pretty upset about that because, you only get one drop round, and that
Yeah.
kind of forced me to have to go to Hawaii because I wasted it at the first round. But
I mean,
yeah,
if anybody's gonna be forced to go to Hawaii, though, it's kind of like you
yeah,
figure it out. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, King of the Motos, it's a race that suits the bike for sure. Where I'm right now, I'm doing some transmission testing, so similar to what Cody did, uh, bringing the internal gears, lowering them so I can actually gear the bike higher. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm testing. It's working out really nicely because the stock transmission I was running 1252, which made first and second
Oh
good,
yeah.
but the bike would be pretty slow on top. So now with this new transmission, I'm running the 1351, and actually the bike has some great speed now.
Crazy. I mean, again, it kind of sucks. It's like now that I realize how connected and all you're doing this a lot of the same stuff Cody Webb. Like it's just
Yeah,
interesting that he like went that he just like called it out like I'm just going 4-stroke. Like
yeah.
do you feel that you may wind up hitting that same wall on the Fantic, or do you feel like there's just enough that makes it better and or different from the true base YZ platform it's built off of?
I think I'll have no issues on this Fantic. It has the electric start, the hydraulic clutch, and the 300 kit right out of the box. And then you add on the fuel injection, oil injection, and the electronic power valve. It's kind of the perfect package that's like in between Japanese and Austrian bikes. So I don't think I'll ever come to the point where I actually need to go to the 4-stroke. But there is for sure a few things that we are tweaking on the 2-stroke to make it optimal for hard enduro. For like a cross country guy, I think the Fantic would be one of the best 2-strokes you could use. Anything with the speed, this bike absolutely rips. So, and just like Cody said, the bikes are spicy. They go fast, and so yeah, tame them down a little bit. Put some lower compression heads, but yeah, I think the bike is completely good the way it is for hard enduro. I don't think I'll be
And
able
and
to.
I think some people can get a little again, I am a racer, but I am also the level I am at. You are a professional
Mhm.
racer. That's the hard part. I think that sometimes it's weekend warriors and voyeurists like myself try to make sure we don't overcomplicate things because y'all are trying to do things with these motorcycles we'll never
Yep.
be capable of, even if we spent years trying, right? And
Yeah.
so we just need to make sure that we understand that pretty much every motorcycle coming out of the manufacturer is pretty darn stinking good. And yeah,
Yeah.
there's some updates and things like that we can make, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad motorcycle in that
Yep.
regard.
Yeah.
What have I missed about King of the Motos, right? Like, for yourself, anything that you want anybody else to know, things that should be very important that when we have you on the broadcast that we're just like screaming about Braxton?
Like King of the Motos is always a little bit of a faster race compared to some other races. This place is chunky. If this is going to be your first King of the Motos, expect to fall a lot. The rocks will bite you. Um, and make sure don't look at your GPS too much. It's important to go the right way, but it's also important to stay off the ground. So, yeah, um, just keep your head up in the dust and be careful out there. It's gnarly.
Quinn was saying that it was like for him, it felt like it had a little bit of a higher intensity because of he felt that like it's kind of exactly what you're saying with the chunky rocks, and there's the chance for faster, a little bit crazier lines, and so it can
Yeah,
really like bump your heart rate up quick while you're
yeah,
doing some of that, and it's very hard to kind of remember to breathe and remember to try to get that heart rate back down when you have that opportunity. That's crazy.
yeah.
I'm excited. It's gonna be another
Yeah.
good year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All of the West Coast rounds, it's obviously physically demanding, but you're having to watch the terrain so like you have to watch the terrain so intensely that it's actually like really mentally draining as well. Cause um the second you lose perfect focus, you're gonna crash. So yeah, just it's just a crazy, crazy game out here.
Love it. Well, dude, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to being able to meet you in person. We may have met before, and if we have, I apologize.
Yeah.
That way we can officially shake, we can high five, and we can talk about dirt bikes. You can ride them, and I can try to make it at least sound good while you're making it look good there in Johnson
Yeah.
Valley.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I hope that you're as excited for the 2026 King of the Motos as I am. If you're not going to be able to join us in Hammertown and Johnson Valley, make sure you watch the King of the Motos YouTube channel for the live broadcasts that are going to be happening January 24th and 25th. I'll be there announcing, having a great time. Thank you again to Motorcycles and Coffee for supporting these interviews and the King of the Motos. Check them out at motorcyclesandcoffee.com. Subscribe to Seat Time. We'll see you for the next one. Peace.